What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of State Champs Hang Time. This is the podcast for the hoops enthusiast in the state of Michigan. We're so happy to be doing this again. We're kind of getting on a roll here, back in the comfy confines of the State Champs Sports Network studios, inside the podcast room. We got my men here ready to go. TJ Kelley, what's up?
How you doing?
Ready? Scott Burnstein?
Let's do it, baby.
All right. Jeff Dullack?
Another week.
All right, here we go. Living the dream, as Jeff Dullack always says.
That's my go-to line.
All right, just before we get going, I do want to thank our sponsors for this particular program. That is Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser, the best fundraising you can do for your school, your event, your team. Go to doughraiser.com. And, of course, BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan, bcam.org. They are proud to be a part of this cast. You'll hear from Dan Young later in the show. We're going to talk about Mr. Basketball, kind of a little bit of the history, and we even did a little bit where we were comparing some of the original old-timer Mr. Basketball guys compared with today and their games.
I can talk about some. We had some really good feedback from last week when Dan came in and talked about the girls' basketball Miss Basketball for the girls hoopsters. I had about maybe a half a dozen calls from people saying, thanks for shouting us out on State Champs. I had another couple saying, why wasn't my girls shouted out?
Well, yeah, of course.
But then the fact that there was this debate and people were talking about it and there was buzz, it means that people are paying attention.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. We're getting it out there, and let's get into it. Let's talk about rankings. Not a lot of changes since last week, TJ.
Well, not much, because the top teams wound up winning.
Skyline survived the curse.
Skyline survived the curse. I tell you what, that was one heck of a game last Saturday at Belleville when Old Redford almost came back to beat Skyline. Skyline was able to hang on, and I think that Old Redford wound up coming back and tying the game, or took a 1 point advantage in the fourth quarter. Rocket Watts had 30 of his 31 points in the second half.
We were talking earlier today, we were saying that the juniors, we got Rocket and Romeo,
are
the ones that we're going to be looking out for next year when it comes to, we're talking about Mr. Basketball.
Yep.
Without a doubt, those two are unbelievable. But then, even moving on to Class B, those guys are. The top three haven't changed: New Haven, River Rouge, and Benton Harbor. And to be honest, depending on who you just saw, you could probably say that they're the top team in Class B, because they're really rolling right now.
I love what I'm seeing and I'm just from afar, because I'm not seeing the games in person, but I'm following them on social media and seeing some video highlights. But I love what I see from Scooby Johnson over at Benton Harbor, moving his game to the outside, showing everyone that he's not just an inside threat. Like last year, he was their leading scorer on a team that went to the Final Four. Some people called him one of the best, some people were calling him the best freshman in the state. I guess you could debate that. He's definitely one of the best freshmen in the state, but he was kind of more in the post last year. This year, for a guy that's right now only about 6'5", 6'6", he's showing that he can step out.
Right. One thing that stands out to me is Old Redford. They lost to Skyline, but I don't believe in good losses. But that's a loss that kind of proves that they don't need to go anywhere. That's the number one team in the Super 10 that they lost to. Gave them a really good fight, and I think you look at a team like Detroit Old Redford. They're going to be that next group of team in Class B to be messed with when you have River Rouge, New Haven, Benton Harbor. And then I think you really have Detroit Old Redford, Grand Rapids CC, and kind of that next tier of teams that are going to make some noise too.
Let me also, I don't know if I'm the first one to say this,
but
maybe I will be, but maybe not. Brandon Wade, supersonic sleeper special for Mr. Basketball.
Yeah. I think that he's starting to more qualify himself for
consideration.
That consideration for that possible fifth guy,
right.
To be in there. I think that obviously we've got the big three with DeJulius, Lawyer, and Brandon Johns.
Yep.
And I think that there are some alternate spots that can go in there. And Trey Williams is putting up the video game numbers, so I could see him going. He's going to the Big Ten and stuff like that. But if there's a dark horse of a guy that can get in that, I think that Brandon Williams.
And I love when I see a guy from the time from when we first see him as a 14, 15-year-old to when he's a 17, 18-year-old, you just see the progress.
Yeah.
And you see it every year getting better.
They're playing
every
huge
game
games.
getting better.
Yeah.
Huge games against great teams.
But I'm saying if you would have told me 2 years ago that Brandon Wade would be a Mr. Basketball candidate, I'd be like, he's a good player. Let's keep it at that.
Right.
But hey, hats off to what he's been doing.
And then you've got Marcus Bingham also in that.
He's going to get
that
that Grand Rapids vote, and I think that's going to take him a long ways. He'll definitely be in the mix. I'd be surprised if he's not one of the top three finishers, if I had to be honest.
I think that you could be 100% correct. The only thing is when you've got guys that are going to split the Michigan State votes and the Michigan votes, and that's one thing that they're all voters, or let's say fans are always going to talk about. how votes are split. And now all of a sudden, if you've got one guy in Detroit, one guy in Michigan that's going, or excuse me, in Lansing they're going to Michigan.
Right.
Then you've got Clarkston and Grand Rapids going to Michigan State. Hey, where do you divide it? And then the other thing
There's
is
a lot of that this year.
Yeah, Brandon Johns lives in East Lansing.
Right.
You know, if he goes to Michigan State, I think hands down he winds up winning. You know, but now he's at Michigan. I think that now all of a sudden he's going to have to ask, you know, guys that are diehard Spartan fans, to all of a sudden they're going to have to change it up and say, you know, I got to vote for my guy going to Michigan.
I think the voters want to see them playing good players, too, good teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, East Lansing is not playing that kind of schedule this year.
Right.
You know?
Well, they really haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Well, that's the thing.
They put up a lot of wins.
So they could have gone out of their way, though, maybe during the holiday and others, to schedule, be in your tournament, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been great, you know. But I also understand that sometimes scheduling, you know, doesn't work. And then a lot of other teams, they have, you know, in the programs, they'll have home and home, or we'll visit you this year, and you come and play at our event the next year, and just to catch up with stuff like that. And I think with anybody who runs any events, you're not trying to break anybody's schedule or get out of their norm. And I don't never press it. If somebody says, hey, we can't do it, you know, I never say, why not?
And there's no question that Lansing area teams have had some great programs. This is a downtime now for them. I mean, he dropped 51 against Sexton. You couldn't have said that a few years ago.
Sexton hasn't won a game this year.
Denzel was there. Was that right? Valentine?
Yeah,
was
Jalen Hayes.
Yeah,
I mean, Trevor Manuel was there at one point. I mean, you look at their championship game, or their championship team, I think, 2014, 2012.
All five starters are Division I
guys.
Right.
You know, I mean, 2 are in the NBA.
Jalen Hayes right now over at Oakland.
Yep. Yeah, and Bryn Forbes with the Spurs.
Bryn Forbes with the Spurs. Hey, man, I want to talk about a guy that I would not have anticipated making a living in the league.
Yeah.
Again, hats off to Bryn.
Yeah, and ate a lot of vegetables and milk, too. Helped him grow a foot.
I don't know, man.
Started at Cleveland State and ended up at Michigan State.
The one thing that, you know, bodes well, I think, for Brandon Johnson a year like this for the Mr. Basketball Award is the fact that Brandon Johnson's missed 2 games, and East Lansing has lost their first 2 regular season games in 3 years now. Mm-hmm. So I think it speaks to the importance of Brandon Johnson to that East Lansing team. With that being said, Foster Lawyer not on Clarkston. I think Clarkston would struggle mightily. And David DeJulius not in East English. They would struggle mightily. But it does show the importance of Brandon Johnson to that team. You know, the 2 games without him, they've lost.
Yeah. Yeah, so. But Malik Jones is their point guard. He's still going to Aquinas. Yep. I mean, the cupboard's not 100% empty without Brandon Johns.
Right.
But at the same time, it just shows so much of his what he brings to the table. Right. But you would still like to see them at least maybe beat Okemos or Grand Ledge.
Right.
Well, you know, talking about tournaments, you had yours last weekend. How did that go? Talk about the matchups and how things worked out. You were out at Belleville for that.
At Belleville for the Fast Break Invitational. It was phenomenal. Got to see Kalamazoo Central play Ann Arbor Pioneer. They wound up coming up with a nice win. One of the hottest teams, Detroit Renaissance, wound up coming in the following game. And Westland John Glenn didn't have their best player, Joe Moon, who did play last night, but he was out with an ankle injury. Detroit Renaissance is rolling.
Carrington McCaskill, Chandler Turner.
Carrington McCaskill winds up picking
a duo.
VCU
a VCU offer yesterday or on Monday. Had a phenomenal game. He missed his first shot on Saturday and wound up, I think, scoring 25 points and
11 of 13,
and was 11 of 13 or something like that from the field. And then he winds up. But going on to speak about Renaissance, you know, you beat Henry Ford, you beat Cass Tech. One of your best players wound up getting an offer from VCU. You wound up beating the solid Westland John Glenn team. I went to the game on Tuesday. They wound up beating Detroit or holding on to beat Detroit Western. And so, yeah, the Renaissance is playing pretty well. But moving on to the third game, Novi, the addition of Trendon Hankerson the addition of Tariq Woody.
They started off 1-6.
Yes, they might wind up 14-6.
Yeah,
right. It would not surprise me at all.
Woody's a transfer. Hankerson was battling some ankle issues.
Yeah, but then you still got Trey Maddox, who's a darn good player.
Giovanni
Miles.
Nick Williams coming off the bench is a really, really nice 6 man.
Yeah, and Giovanni wound up winning the game's the mayor's MVP, who I wound up giving it to. But he wound up having, I think, hitting 6 threes in the game. I mean, he had a stretch in that first quarter where it was just like, man, this guy. All right, well, how many points do you want to go for?
They got really they got everyone on the same page and really focused all of a sudden. I was talking to Coach Sanawi. This is about the Novi Wildcats coming off a season last year where they won their league championship. Very easily could have been in the quarterfinals, lost in a controversial buzzer beater in the Class A regional championship game. and bringing back pretty much the entire cast of characters. And a lot of people had them in their state top 10 or top 15, top 20, and they started off 1-6. And I talked to Coach Sanau. He said, you know what? Frankly, we've just been reading a lot of our press clippings, and we're kind of just expecting to show up and teams just to lay down for us. And if anything, it goes the other direction. When you're a team that has these high expectations, people are geared up to play you. And I saw them right before the Christmas break, or right before New Year's rather. They lost by 20 to Country Day. They should not be losing to Country Day by 20 points. Right. This isn't the Shane Battier, Chris Webber Country Day teams, or even the Ray McCallum, Edmund Sumner Country Day teams.
Give them time. They're
not
bad.
Yeah,
they're not bad. Country Day is going to be all right.
Very young. They got 5 freshmen and a really nice sophomore,
Wendell Green.
and Wendell Green. But Coach Sanau, he said we just gotta kind of regroup and hope that our seniors take the bull by the horns. We're gonna get back at it at practice, and those kids between I think that was the 28th or 29th, between that and when we came back for break, obviously gaining the services of Hankerson and Woody helped. But everyone, I've been watching their scores while watching their highlights. They're just playing at a whole another level of basketball right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But finishing up the last 2 games from the Fast Break Invitational, the monster game between Ann Arbor Skyline and Old Redford. Rocket Watts wound up scoring 31 points, 30 in the second half. Brandon Wade wound up winning the Mayor's MVP, 32 and scored 32 points, but just brought a lot of consistency and really just drove the game. He had the wheel the entire time, and he just did a phenomenal job of maintaining their lead. So shouts out to Skyline. But then in that last game, we had Belleville, who just really struggled. They had 3 opportunities to tie the game or to win. Coming down the stretch, wound up losing to 2 points to West Bloomfield. And I tell you what, Donovan Moore, who just transferred in, is another one of those
the real
phenomenal
Holyfield.
He's really good, and they've just got so many guards on that West Bloomfield team.
Southpaw assassin.
Yes, yeah. Go ahead. But phenomenal day.
It's interesting. I've been getting texts from my Romulus peeps.
Yeah.
And, they've got Belleville on the schedule next Tuesday, so they're trying to get state champs to come out and everything. And I'm just curious, have you seen Romulus? I know we looked them up. We're like, wow, they're 6-1, but haven't heard any.
Yeah, they lost to UD Jesuit, and maybe by like 30 points or something like that on a random Saturday afternoon.
80-something to 50-something.
Yeah, and they were undefeated. And I'm really looking at my rankings. I was like, all right, just give me a reason why I can put you in the top 10. All right, you beat UD Jesuit. UD Jesuit's in the top 10.
Yeah.
Romulus isn't. But DJ Lundy has been playing, pretty well for them. He's their stabilizer. Herb Buckley's the head coach over at Romulus and
Demetrius is dead, right?
No, I believe family member, but not his father.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but but Herb Buckley he'll make sure that they're doing a good job. I think he's been on the girl side for quite a while, but he's doing well.
Okay.
Put in a quick note about West Bloomfield. In addition to getting Donovan Moore, the transfer from Chicago, who's come in and just really had 3 great games since he's been eligible. I believe he had 17 his first game, 18 his second game, or 21 his second game, and 28 against Belleville. They've also got their defensive stopper back, Trey Mosley, who's one of the best football recruits in the class of 2019 as a wide receiver, had a huge breakout season this past fall. He didn't come out for the team for the first couple weeks of the season. He wanted to focus on football. Had a change of heart, came back, and from what I heard, I wasn't there on Saturday, I heard it just had a lockdown effort on Gabe Brown and Belleville's Michigan State.
Davion Williams.
And Davion, was it Davion Williams?
I think it was Davion.
Davion
played pretty well, not to take anything away, so maybe the difference was 10 points, which obviously would have been the game.
Yeah,
and don't sleep on a guy like Trey Harvey either.
Oh, Trey Harvey is one of the best shooters.
If Jack, like you said last week, if Jack Ammerman's the best, sharpshooter in Metro Detroit, Trey Harvey might be that number 2.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this just to wrap this segment up real quick before we get too long. Talk about some of the teams who are maybe on the brink of getting into your rankings.
You know what? There's so many that, as far as Class A goes, like I've moved Ypsilanti in. What happens to get Jenks? Dexter winds up beating them by 8 points last night.
Right.
But looking into some of the other teams, Ypsilanti is still on the cusp, or excuse me, not Ypsilanti, East Lansing, who had just moved out because of their loss to Okemos. But then there are some other quality teams across the state where you could probably look at. I'm trying to think of. Like De La Salle isn't that far away. All their losses are quality losses. Obviously, no quality losses and stuff like that. But I think Wayne Memorial is another team where they've just lost to, you lose to Clarkston, you lose to Canton, you lose to Ann Arbor Skyline, and I'm just like, just give me one win. But you give me one win, or don't lose by such a disparaging point margin to Canton.
What about some of the lower divisions?
And I think when you move over to Class B, you got New Boston Huron. They have a big game, I believe, on Thursday or Friday against Monroe St. Mary's, who is one of the top teams in Class C. So that will be a test for them. If New Boston Huron can want to win in that game, then they'll be projected into the top 10 of B. So I think that'll be a big game for them.
I got to ask you, we were talking about Detroit Renaissance earlier, but how close are they to cracking those rankings? They've got some big wins lately, and I just feel like they've got a game, I think, towards the end of the month or beginning of February against Cass Tech. But,
and they play at Cass Tech.
Beat Cass Tech.
Yeah, and so obviously, if you can really prove yourself, but I also think that even if they don't lose another game going into that Cass Tech game, and then they go into the PSL finals, I think that they can easily be a top 10 team. Right. Whoever they're playing on Friday, just escapes me right now. But
I think it's University Prep.
Or what? It's North. They played Detroit Northwestern.
Oh, Northwest Collegiate Prep.
Yeah, Collegiate Prep. So, sorry about that. The street shows what to say.
It will always be Northwestern.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. So, I think Renaissance is really, really close as well. And not only that, they're playing with a bunch of confidence. And Chandler Turner last night is just so versatile in what he can do. He can burn you from the outside. He can, he plays the 1 through 5. I think he's not their most exciting player, which Carrington is.
McCaskill's the best dunker in the state. For
Buffy.
My money, that guy is a skywalker.
And
Lamar Norman might have something to say about that, but it's pretty close.
You said who?
Lamar Norman.
Well, he's
Lamar Norman.
No, but they're different types of dunkers.
Yeah.
He's a little guy that's a dunker.
Right.
Yeah, Carrington is pretty excited, and there were quite a few fans at Belleville who were. Man, who's this guy? You sure the game can't go on any longer?
Right.
But I do like Carrington, but Chandler really brings that versatile option because he can score in the paint. He had offensive rebounds. He had some nice finishes. Just like turnaround jumpers from 5 feet. It wasn't like he wasn't trying to do Kobe turnarounds from 15 feet in the elbow and all that stuff. He just plays in his comfort zone, and he was very efficient. And so I think that Chandler is. While he has Division I offers and stuff like that, he's probably the guy that really nobody is talking about on that Renaissance team, maybe as much as they could.
All right, so as we go to break, know this, something we actually began discussing today, and I don't mind throwing it out there because I love doing it, is that we want to try to get something in the works next year. We can bring back some sort of dunk contest, something that we would have fans involved, something we could do maybe at the Breslin Center, maybe over the course of the semis. At an event there.
That's how they do it in Indiana and Illinois.
Yeah.
They both have the 3-point, the statewide 3-point contest.
So the MHSA will do their 3-point competition, but we're talking about doing a dunk show.
I think that'd be great for the fans.
I think it would be phenomenal. We could have videos submitted and people voting on them. We would take a top 5. Have them at halftime one game, and then take the final 2 for the halftime of the next game.
Oakland County,
maybe the Friday AB, the AB games.
Oh yeah.
Oakland County used to do it, and they stopped it about 10 years ago. But one of my recollections as a player and that participated in the 3-point shootout was when I played when I shot in the 3-point shootout. Shane Battier won the dunk contest, and he won on a cartwheel dunk.
So right.
That's the wildest thing Shane has ever done in his life.
Yeah. In fact, Dan Young, before he left today, he was saying they had a dunk contest, and it was said Ray Lee.
Yep.
He said he went underneath, pulled back, tomahawked, and he just didn't get his last one up in time. He wasted too much time in prepping, and so he didn't win.
Jalen Reynolds ended up winning that one.
Exactly.
I was there for it.
Right, because he was just power dunking.
Yep.
Yeah, talk about dunking now. Doug Anderson's up at Saginaw playing for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, yeah, man, no doubt. Dunk C. So as we go to break quickly, if we were going to have, let's say this year we were going to have a contest, who would be the 3 guys you would want in that list?
Lamar Norman, and you give us our third.
Oh, wow. I think there's a kid over at Detroit Northwestern who I really like. Is Steve Pearson.
Stevie Pearson.
And at 6'2", just so explosive.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most skilled player, but
it's all right.
Yeah, but one of the things that he does is he brings the fans up out of their seats.
Another guy to look at. Spider Johnson at Detroit Edison. Last year he had a couple of big-time dunks in the semifinals. He can throw it down a little
pure
bit.
power over at Cass Tech, Randy Gilbert.
That's another
even
good one.
DeJuan Seal over at Pershing,
Yep.
who was he was really good at versus Dubsa last
Tell
week.
me we wouldn't get everybody fired up.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
could fill the roster pretty quickly.
I'm sure Brandon Johns would have something to say about that too.
That's
Not
true.
too bad.
Yeah, exactly. If they would let him play. The fun thing is when you get guys in who maybe, and again, we don't have to limit it to seniors. So, you bring the young guys who are still are still hungry and trying to make a name for themselves, but also the ones who maybe don't have big time offers, but they can just get up and fly.
Yep.
And that's how we do it. So that's what we're going to do for the future. So stay tuned. No, we're always thinking, always planning, always trying to get things not only for you to be interactive with us, but for you to just enjoy as hoops fans. When we come back, we're going to go rapid fire on Contenders and Pretenders. So you're going to want to stick around for that.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for one medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
Welcome back to State Champs Hang Time. This is the Hoops Podcast, joined by Jeff Dullack, TJ Kelley, Scott Burnstein. I'm Lorne Plant. We're getting to our second segment of this week, and that is Contenders and Pretenders. So what we want to do is we just kind of want to throw names, just kind of just a couple comments quick. You can just say contender, pretender. Maybe you got a quick comment, but let's just do this, all right? Class A, let's start there. Ann Arbor Skyline.
Contender.
Contender. I think they got as much scoring as anybody in the state right now.
Hazel Park.
Contender.
Yes.
Big time.
Yeah, they've got premium gasoline.
Yeah, you can look at guys like David Hearns, Carl Bowe. Those are two guys that can probably match up with any backcourt in the state in terms of athleticism and ability to get up and down. I would love to see a Hazel Park Skyline game.
Up and down
late
the
in
roster,
tournament.
Yeah.
tough as nails.
Yes.
Yep. That's a team that they've made a quick rise in the last couple of years, but they're here to stay. I think. And I speak largely because of their players.
Some
but I
big
think
games coming up too.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
Big
I'm
matchups.
I'm gonna be at Hazel Park Troy on tomorrow.
And then they've got West Bloomfield on January 30th. They've got Clarkston February 3rd in Grand Rapids. They play Benton Harbor.
They beat West Bloomfield last week in a down to the wire thriller.
So if there are any doubters of Hazel Park at this time, they'll answer.
You'll
those
know
by
in a
the
week
end
and a
of-
half.
by the- yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the defending champs, Clarkston.
Contender for sure.
Contender.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
How about
If you're watching the webcast here,
Right,
it
yeah.
is
The
Scott
contender.
Bernstein's face.
the contender?
We're going to take a still of that, and that will be your meme. All right, then. How about Cass Tech?
Yeah, you know what? Cass Tech's they're still a contender. I think that it might sometimes losing a game is beneficial, and I think that for Cass Tech, losing 2 games is probably going to be beneficial as a learning tool.
Who's going to win the PSL championship?
I think Cass Tech.
I'm going to say one of 4 or 5 teams.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
Cass Tech's still a contender. Don't love what I saw in those 2 losses, and I would have really liked to see Marcus Gibbs still on that roster.
Yeah.
He moved over to King, and he's a big difference maker. If Gibbs was still on that roster, I would say Cass Tech has a contender to win it all. Now I'll just say they're a contender to go deep in the tournament.
Yep.
I think their depth is just what makes them a contender right now. But like what Scott said, Marcus Gibbs will probably put them over the top.
Yep.
Staying in the PSL, EEV,
Hey,
the
this-
Ville, East English Village.
As long as David Julius has
Yeah.
the ball in his
Yeah.
hands, they're a contender
Yeah.
in my book.
Yeah, I think it all rides with the Julius
The star
and
power.
Yeah, and not only the star power. I mean, he is their Trey Young.
Quickest release
I like
that
that.
I've seen this year.
They got a dunker on that team, too.
yeah, Xavier Godwin.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Xavion's not. Yeah, he's pretty good. But then they also have some other pieces
They got
on
a
that
nice
team.
sophomore.
Jay Sean Moore is
Jay-Sean Moore.
is a really good sophomore. You've got a kid, one of the best names of all time, Sudie McElroy.
There you go.
Who's a junior. Marky Well Jackson's younger brother, who played at Crockett and then East English Village to finish out his high school career. But yeah, they've got some other pieces other than Julius, and I think that just getting over some of the wins and some of their hurdles, and I think that they're the sleeper they can win the PSL title.
And anytime DeJulius steps over half court, he's within his range.
Right.
East Lansing.
Pretender.
Yeah, I think that
All
they
due
just
respect
need
to
do a
Steve
little
Finnemore.
Okay, so it's waiting for the follow-up.
Yeah, I think they've just got a little bit more that they've got to work with, but they can still make it to the Breslin just because there's not a lot of strength coming from the west side.
Right. You know, I think they're a contender to make it there. And anytime you have a star, I think it helps. So I'll call them a contender, but they're kind of like that last team I'm willing to kind of put in that contender list.
Flint, Carmen, Ainsworth.
You know, I
They played Clarkson really tough.
you know
Yeah,
what?
they did.
They have the elements as far as they've got an experienced senior point guard in Jacavian Lewis. They've got Amari Duncan on the wing. They've got Mike Fletcher, who's going to be one of the best football players.
Yeah.
You know, by the time he's a senior, if he's not one of the best players as a sophomore.
And he's one of the best basketball players in the Flint area.
Yeah, and well, he's also got Division I offers. So I mean, at
Yeah.
6'6", 6'7", you know, he's a guy that can really get a lot of things done in the middle. And I think that he has. You need a strong point guard, and I think the other thing is you need somebody that's over 6'6" who gets meaningful minutes. The last team that won Class A title and didn't have a player over 6'6" was Saginaw Arthur Hill with Dart Tucker. So if you want to go back to 2005 or 2006 or whatever that was, then hey, it is what it is. And I made a little 5-second call on Johnny Jones, and they might not have won.
Right.
And then it would have been Okamus with I believe
He had,
Alex
he had a-
Yanni.
he had a ridiculous game that game, Johnny Jones, in the state finals.
Yeah, and especially the referee calling with that 5 counting behind him. You can't find me, you know. Where's that referee? He's counting behind you, but I can't see him.
Right.
Canton.
I'll say contender.
You know what?
I like what I've seen from them this year.
I think so as well. Let's say this: the more they win, the more teams are going to take them
The
seriously.
more confidence they build.
But I also think that now they're going to start getting every team's best
Right.
game.
Yeah.
Wayne Memorial is not going to play like they did the first time.
not at
You know,
all.
when they have to play the KLA championships and all that stuff, if they have to play a Novi has already had the target on their back, you know, to start the season. And they're saying, you know what, we're not turning back from this. I think that Canton has, if they just had that little bit extra, and Chase Meredith has been playing out of his mind and doing very well as the glue guy in the middle for Canton. B. Artist White playing obviously very well for Canton as well. I'd just really like to see them maybe if they had another key piece that, you know, with some size, and I think that's where they lack the oomph to put them over the.
I saw him
to the
against
contenders.
Troy over break. and
I'm going
I
to
really
see him
liked it.
Tuesday against Salem because they're doing their Athletics Hall of Fame induction. So
I'm
I'll
going
be
to
there for that.
say pretender for now, but I want to see how they match up against those teams the second time around. See how they handle everybody's best,
The
knowing
wait
that
and
they're for
see
real now.
attitude.
Right.
Yeah,
All right, let's go to Class B. How about River Rouge?
contender.
Contender.
Yeah, contender.
And we can go quick on these.
Javian Torrance is a guy
Yeah.
to watch for River Rouge.
Yep.
He's going to make that team go.
Our top 3 is New Haven.
Yeah, contender.
Yeah, and
Defending
obviously
champion.
Benton Harbor.
Yeah.
So
back to the Breslin, all 3 of them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that leaves room for one more. How about Old Redford Academy?
Contender.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I think
big time contender.
Yeah.
I think that they're contenders. And the other thing is, we always talk about Mark Watts. Isaiah Jackson is the best 2020.
Yep.
There's another kid, Andre Polk, who had 17 points. He's
That's
6'8", and he was making jumpers. And I think that if he can start doing that, it just brings a different dynamic. Because Isaiah Jackson doesn't have to score.
Right.
I mean, he grabbed 8 rebounds and had 7 blocks, and maybe had 2 fouls or something like that. Just doesn't get in foul trouble. There are not a lot of guys, NBA pro, college or in high school, that are blocking shots and staying out of foul trouble.
right.
Detroit Henry Ford.
I like them a
do
lot.
too.
Yeah.
They play with a motor that's like a few that I've seen this year. They get up and down the floor and really come after you on every possession. And when you play that type of basketball night in, night out, you're always going to be a contender.
Yeah, contender here.
Yeah, I agree.
Godwin Heights.
Contender.
Contender.
Lamar Norman's got
Yo.
that swag factor. I mean, I love what
They love their team too out there. I remember the few times I've had to be out there a few times, and it's just always
He is lightning
packed.
in a bottle at 6'2".
Which
Yeah.
it adds. There is something as that's sixth man. It
Yeah.
means something.
Yeah.
Not to mention his running buddy
Marquise Hastings.
As far as I'm concerned with Godwin Heights, that to me is the team that I think has the biggest shot to upset those top 3 in terms of winning a state championship. Marquise Hastings, Lamar Norman felt that success when they were freshmen. Now they're seniors. They want to end out their high school careers on the high note. Those 2 are something to be reckoned with.
Agreed.
Grand Rapids Catholic Central.
It's a tough one.
I I think that they're teetering on the. A lot of it's going to depend on their guard play. They're obviously we know about their forwards in Polakovic and Mark and Bingham. I think that the biggest thing that they have is the losses that the loss that they've had, any ups and downs as far as guard play. Those guards are only going to get better as the season goes along, and so I think that they could wind up maybe being the upset of Godwin Heights. Obviously Godwin beat them already in the first, their first go around. But right now I'm kind of on the fence.
Would that be a regional matchup?
That would. I believe it would be in the regional.
There's an emotional factor there too with Jacob's father who passed away in the off season, and he's playing lights out for his pop. So that's kind of
when they have rallying cries. That works.
Sure. Yeah. That's something that can buoy you in tournament play.
For sure.
All right, let's go to Class C and Calvin Christian.
Just lost to Covenant Christian last night for 54-45 at Covenant Christian. Covenant Christian wound up making it to the finals and were Class B runner-ups Class C runner-ups last year.
Yes.
So with Calvin Christian, again, they've been to the Breslin a couple of years ago. I think that they're contenders and that they can definitely make it back.
Agreed.
Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central.
I love them.
I love their big.
Yeah. C.J. Hall, who's going to Air Force.
Yep.
And then they've also got Hunter Kegley, who's a lights-out shooter from the guard position. And they've got a big game coming up against New Boston Huron.
Their balance is big. Having that kind of balance in Class C, they can compete with just about anybody.
And Randy Wyndham is one of the best coaches around.
Oh, absolutely.
What about Dansville?
Another one. I love their big.
Yeah.
Caleb Hodgson is one of the best. But then they've also got a couple of other guards in France and Voss on that team who I think are kind of underrated. And again, you need
what league do
guard
they
play
in?
Oh, I know it's not Interstate 8, but it's something right around there.
Okay. Yeah, because we don't talk about Dansville too often.
Right.
Yeah. But I also saw Dansville play against Henry Ford School for Creative Studies earlier in the year. And, while it was a pretty close game, I know Dansville wound up they wound up beating Osborne. And Osborne, they're probably the best 0-win team or 2-win team and 3-win team in the country, in the state.
Yeah.
Dansville is out of the Central Michigan Athletic Conference.
There we go, the SMAC.
The CMAC. All right, let's wrap up Class C, and we can go quickly because we talked about these teams. Detroit Edison.
I'm going to say
pretender.
I think that they're a pretender. They haven't won a game in the PSL East, and
it's tough,
I know it's tough, but you've got to be able to pull out one of those victories.
PJ Mitchell is good, but he's no David DeJulius. And DeJulius was that's PJ took David's spot at the point when DeJulius left for East English.
Right. Yeah,
stay in PSL Pershing, which is weird to say Class C, but
yeah.
I'm going to say Contender. I think that's a team with a lot of balance, but I think their guard play is what can really take them far.
I love Seal, so
yeah.
You know why I like them as a contender? Because they go to Warren Michigan Collegiate to play in the district. Then they'll have to play Depsa more than likely, or Loyola, or however that winds up going on. Mm-hmm. And then they've got a pretty smooth road to the Breslin after the regionals.
Yeah.
So I think that they're contenders.
Similar to the road Depsa had last year.
Yes.
All right. Flint Beecher.
Anytime Mike Williams is on the bench, they got to be a contender in my book.
And they got a really, really, really solid point guard,
Jalen
Terry.
And Ernest Sanders would probably be in that dunk contest too that we were talking about earlier in 2020.
Yeah.
But I think that they're growing more. Mm-hmm. Championships aren't won in December and January. Everybody's making the playoffs, and so what are they doing to overcome those hiccups, those losses when it comes around to March? And really nobody's doing it better than Mike Williams. He's going to be up there with Lofton Green and guys like that, Souls and stuff like that.
Kirk
if he wants
Keener.
to win another championship or two. Yep, Kirk Keener.
All right, let's wrap it up. Class D, of course, Southfield Christian.
Yeah,
got to be the odds-on favorite.
Just ticket them.
Just
Ticket them right now. I'll see him in the state championship.
No more
game.
Powers North Central to give them
That's right.
give them that true competition. But a couple other schools are going to battle. Buckley.
Yep, Buckley lost. They've lost a few games. I think to Kalamazoo Hackett, and then they wound up losing to Frankfurt.
Right, that's the other team.
Yep, who's the other team, and I think that they can make it to the Breslin as well as Buckley.
Yeah.
And then the loss to Glen Lake, and while I do like Glen Lake, and they have been ranked in the state champs and Class C's rankings, I think that's a game that Buckley's got to win.
Yeah.
But
what I will say about Buckley, they've got so many people or so many guys back from last year's team. They made it to the state finals, and I just feel it's going to be a senior-laden team, so I think that experience is going to make them a contender. Maybe not necessarily to beat Southfield Christian in the final, but to definitely get back to the Breslin Center.
Yeah, they're not. Let's say this: if Frankfurt or Buckley isn't at the Breslin, then
that's an upset.
Then I hope it's Dollar Bay, because I swear I want to get a shirt that says Dollar Bay like so bad. I'm just like, man, this has got to be the best thing in the world.
You can't manufacture experience come March, and that's such a huge thing for Buckley. So I'm saying contender.
Right.
Got it. All right. Well, that is our second segment. Thank you, gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to talk with BCAM's Dan Young. Again, we're going to talk about Mr. Basketball, compare some of the old and the new in terms of guys who have won the title before and guys who are up for it now, and kind of comparing their games a little bit and just talking about some other things as well. And then when we come back with the fellas, we're going to talk about the upcoming games, the best of the weekend. So stay with us right here on Hang Time.
Welcome to Be the Referee with MHSAA Assistant Director Mark Ewell.
One of the more hotly debated topics in the world of high school basketball over the last 6 or 7 years has been the topic of the shot clock. There are some parts of the country that advocate use of a shot clock. However, Michigan, along with many of the other Midwest states, have opposed adding the shot clock to high school basketball. One reason is the feedback we get from our basketball coaches is that a shot clock is not needed or necessary, that by adding this new rule, it would not improve or increase the level of play at the high school level. Plus, there are logistical considerations that all schools, if we used a shot clock, would now have to have personnel to run that equipment correctly.
Thanks, Mark. You can be a referee. Go online now to sign up at MHSAA.com. Be the Referee is a production of the MHSAA Network.
Welcome back to State Champs Hang Time. Time for our segment with the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. Dan Young here each and every week here in the comfy confines of our podcast studio. And talking a little bit about Mr. Basketball today. Obviously, we got a heated race, and we've got another month, as we discussed on the State Champs TV side this week, another month before you guys, kind of start nailing this down and who our finalists will be.
Yeah, you start with a big list, obviously. Want to check out as many people as you can. And we're looking at now almost the end of January. The names will be in for the final vote February 28th, and then we go ahead and vote.
Right.
It's going to be interesting.
Right. And these are just current coaches who can vote. So obviously BCAM is a huge organization,
right.
Biggest in the country, as you've said. But it's how many current coaches roughly do we have out there right now?
So right now, just to explain BCAM a little bit, we were at 5,600 members. We're right about that this year. That's the largest in the country, because we're middle school, college coaches. We're not just high school.
Right.
Also, an athletic director can sign up with our school special. So that's why those numbers are a little bit bigger, which makes it great.
Yeah.
Because we get the word out and that. But in order to vote is only a current coach who is coaching basketball at any level can vote on that. So that would be anywhere from probably 1,500 to 2,000, and I'm guessing exactly. But current coaches would be voting on that, and so get out and vote, coaches.
Yeah, exactly. Make it known. And this is the last month, so everyone's kind of doing their due diligence right now about checking these guys out and seeing what they bring to the table. Because obviously there's a lot of names out there, and names, new ones always kind of come to the table, I'm sure, as they're, with this hype machine that is social media and YouTube and word of mouth. It's not just the written word anymore about who a player is. So one of the things we wanted to do today was to have a little fun, and I printed for Dan the list of all the Mr. Basketball winners dating back to, I believe, 1981.
That's awesome.
And when you look at these players, I mean, when you just scan the pages, for me, there's two things. Number one, I think of the guys who went on to do great things at the next level, which there are several. And then also just the guys who in high school, you go, man, I don't care about whatever happened after high school. But in high school,
right.
that dude was wicked.
That you look back at Brad Redford. I'm looking at him.
Right.
And he spoke at our camp a couple years ago, and
sniper.
He unbelievable shooter. You look back, Terry Mills, Glenn Rice, Antoine Jobert, Dane Fife, Battier. It goes on and on. Chris Webber. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Who are some of the guys maybe that you really just have a special feeling for in terms of their just pure talent? When we're talking about these guys of this Miss Basketball group, of when you watched them in high school and you were just dumbfounded.
For me, when I was in high school.
Yeah, exactly. These are all personal things.
Glenn Rice and those Flint Northwestern teams.
Yeah.
So I graduated in '86. He was the '85 winner.
Yeah.
I mean, just unreal. Super long, shoot it great, good guy.
Right.
Heard great stories about his family and what a good guy he was, and had a great career at Michigan, a great career in the NBA with the Miami Heat.
Yeah. People forget it's that forgotten Michigan championship that they forget, because Fab Five was right after that.
He got hot, and they beat North Carolina, and they got on that run, and he was amazing. You go back
and
to
a great pro too.
A great pro, great shooter, great size.
Yeah, played for the Lakers a little bit when I was in LA, and got a chance to see him do his thing.
Got a chance to talk to Drew Neitzel last year at the state tournament, and we were talking about Foster.
Right.
And I just happened to be sitting next to him, and Drew was just an exciting high school player, totally different, like a Scott Skiles kind of guy.
Yeah.
Foster's like that.
Right.
Great competitor, scrappy, just somebody you really like to follow, and
not afraid to carry the load when it's just not working.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe the best highlight film of all time was Jason Richardson's highlight film his senior year. If you can find it in VHS.
Yeah, it might be on YouTube somewhere.
He dunked it 150 times, it seemed like. And it might not have been that, because that Kalamazoo Central kid, I heard he got 100 dunks his senior year. But Jason Richardson, then he won the NBA dunk contest years later. And
No surprise.
It was the pride of our state.
Right.
And Arthur Hill. And so, I've said before, is having good video on these guys and these girls when we get to the tournament, or when we get to the voting period, because we have a big state. We're from all over the place.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have good voting, you're not going to be able to see everybody live unless they make a state tournament run.
Yeah.
So having great film and getting to know these guys and gals is going to make for good voting.
One of the things for me was when the state champs era is the way that my experience is with high school.
Right.
I moved here in 1999, and then kind of was getting a little more training and experience, and then got into the high school scene.
Right.
Actually, in 2001, before state champs with Fred McLeod, and then we went into state champs. Paul Davis was the first guy that I got to see over at Rochester. Yeah, exactly. I was stunned at this, this huge, white guy was just bringing it, and he was so unassuming in terms of his personality.
Right. Yeah, like Drago. I mean, it's just like kind of just like like stone cold.
Exactly.
Monster.
And then had a good career at Michigan State.
He did.
And then obviously
Final Fours and
went into the NBA, and those and Deion Harris. The next year you talk about a dunk machine. He was another guy that would could take it from the free throw line. It seemed like, and it was always fun. Those were like Redford days, Deion Harris and Manny Harris, Cooper Rial Harris, as we called him, Manny Fresh, a few years later. It was like, it was something about going to Redford and being in that gym, and it was just all out. This is our house, and you're going to have to scrap and fight if you're going to come out on top.
Manny was just really long, athletic, did everything really well.
Yeah. Good old I mean, the PSL, I'm glad is back in the way that we're seeing good talent again, because there was that stretch in the 2000s, and man, it was really, really strong.
Yeah. You want your cities to be strong in hoops. It just
especially your biggest city.
Yes, and having the coaches in Detroit are second to none. These guys are so good. I can go up and down the list, getting to know these guys in the last 5 years at camp in the summer. But they're well coached, they're disciplined, and they're going into college ready to play, and both academically and athletically. So that's a credit to those guys.
Yeah, and we've seen the last few years several guys making big contributions.
Impacts. Big impacts immediately.
Yeah, I love it. So let's get into, before we wrap up, some of the candidates that I think who are playing well right now. We'll say candidates, but hopefuls. Yep. There's a lot of
watch
them.
list. Yeah. So the
watch
final
list.
Group,
yes, exactly. And you can even have fun and compare some of these guys to guys you've seen in the past in terms of their game.
It's fun when you're getting close to 50 years old. You can you think back to people that the kids might not remember that we would. You think about Scott Skiles.
Right.
What a great player out of Plymouth, Indiana. Scored 40-some points to get his team to the state championship and win the state championship in Indiana. And I'm hearing the comparison to Foster Lawyer from Clarkston, size-wise, but just the grit and toughness and skill level and ability to get to the basket, handle the ball, find the open player, do exactly what the coach wants him to do, and can score.
Yeah.
And score and score.
Most three-pointers in that program's history, which is deep.
Yeah, Dane Fife, Mr. Basketball from Clarkston, an assistant at Michigan State, great coach, great guy.
And just always in the thick of things. He just had that run of where they couldn't get out of the quarters, and that's the only reason we're not talking about Clarkston as one of the greatest programs of all time, is because they'd run into buzzsaws like
Pontiac Northern,
or Saginaw.
Saginaw High.
Yeah, exactly. You've got
it's hard to get out. It's hard to get there. People say this and that, but coach.
Yeah, and
see if you can get out.
close games, heartbreakers in a lot of cases.
Right.
So it was great to see him win it, and he's the real deal. He's the real deal. Who are some other ones that you think are playing well right now in terms of Mr. Basketball?
Well, you got to talk about David DeJulius and Brandon Johns both. David DeJulius from East English is just focused and carrying his group. He's going to Michigan, is very strong, very athletic. He's a great student. He's exactly, along with Foster and these other guys, exactly what you want in a Mr. Basketball. He's a good guy, a good teammate, and doing all the things off the court too. But he is just torching people lately. Torching people.
Right. Proud tradition out there.
Yeah. He's right in the mix of it right now.
Yeah.
Brandon Johns from East Lansing, coached by Steve Finnemore, is like a Shane Battier for you old-timers, and maybe that's not old-timer, but Shane Battier, who played at Country Day and Duke, and the NBA was on the Miami Heat teams and that.
Yeah, man. National Player of the Year.
He's Brandon is 6'8.5", 6'9", wing player who goes inside and scores, who dunks, but he rebounds great. He'll rebound and bring it and kind of be a point forward, Scottie Pippen. And, his game is just developing, but he looks like Gronkowski out there. He's 6'8" and not thin. He's a strong man. He's going to Michigan, and he's having a great year. I heard he had 51 on somebody, but he's a guy that's going to get you 15, 18 rebounds. He's going to get you assists. He's also going to score 30.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a great list. And it goes on. We could go on and on here. We got, many more here.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it. And we'll talk about that before you guys kind of get down to your finalists. Obviously, it's a difficult decision. Is there a set number that
no.
That's the thing.
There's been some controversy with that, too.
So I wanted you to kind of address, how you come down to your, whatever, 5 or 6 or 3 in some cases.
Right. The committee feels that the best players who deserve to win it should be on the ballot to give it a chance for the vote. So It's been 4, it's been 3, it's been 5. Some people say it should be back in the old days. It should be wide open where you can vote for anybody, and then whoever gets the most. So the committee has decided over years and years and years of doing this since 1981 that the best way is to get what the committee feels is the best for the coaches then to vote on it. The top players, and we probably would now had 2, but you need what they feel is the people that should win it and have a chance to win it and could win it.
So
that's how it goes.
So does BCAM decide who the ballot is going to be and who they vote on, and then you just rank it from there in terms of votes?
Say it again.
Does BCAM? So, for instance, when they're going to vote, do they go in and they just vote? You said they don't. They can't just vote.
The process.
Okay. They're given a list of guys to choose from. Yeah.
I know what you mean. So when we get to the final candidates that are sent to our office from the committee, we will then.
So you have a committee who chooses the final group of guys that they're going to vote on.
Correct. That'll be girls and guys when that comes in.
I'm just saying because there's people out there who don't know the process. They'd like to know it.
Right. So then when it goes to the actual voting of it, the list of players will be there, however many it is.
Right. And that is chosen by a committee of who?
Our chairman is Al Snyder. Mick McCabe is on our committee. And then we have a whole crew of coaches around the state that go see players and report back in a systematic way back to the committee.
Okay, and then they all give you, and again, we're just spitballing here, they give you a list of their top 5, and then you break it down from there?
Basically, it starts with a big list, and it keeps coming down.
Okay.
And
the committee agrees.
Like one person can't take one person off the list.
Right.
It has to be a group thing, and it's really a good way of doing it.
It is, yeah.
So then Al would then be the chair that would then be the spokesperson of that,
right,
and take it out. So then when you get to the voting of it, just so you know, if I was a voting member, which I am because I'm coaching girls at Salem right now, I would get the email which sent to me would have the list, and I must vote for 3, not just the top.
Good.
So it's a 5.3-3-1 voting. So you look at it. In the past years, we've really pushed to get a video with it. And so you have a good feel for the video is huge. The video is huge because you're not going to be able to see all these people. And then you do your vote, 5-3-1, first, second, third, and then it will tally up. And so it's been working.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that, these guys who are they're the conspiracy theorists out there, because they're like, oh well, let's just say Brandon Johns.
Yeah,
he's East Lansing. Well, he's going to get all their votes. I don't think that's always the case. And then they always talk about, well, it's really too bad that we've got 3 players down here out of Detroit because they're all going to split the vote. Whereas if you've got a player from the West Side, everybody's going to vote for him because it's just one.
Kind of like the Heisman, right? You say from where you are.
I would like to think that coaches know great players.
They're educated.
And because of holiday tournaments and again, the fact that we can see a lot of these guys on video more than we ever have in the past, that if I'm a coach, let's say at East Grand Rapids, and I've seen David DeJulius play, I'm just throwing his name out there, and then I kind of follow up and I would say this is the best player in the state, in my opinion. Even though I may have someone right in my own backyard that is up for the award, I'm not going to vote just on patronage to my area.
Right. That's a great comment to make because if you think about last year, the 2 guys on the west side, Isaiah Livers and Xavier Tillman, west side of the state, they battled it out all the way to the end. And the guys in the city were right up there too. You had 2 guys out of the city. In Detroit, I mean. And so it went head-to-head out on the west side. It was in one area. One year, we had a guy from up north who that's where that theory kind of was. Dwayne.
We could look it up.
Dwayne Anderson from Suttons Bay High School.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Dwan Anderson.
Dwan, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Dwan,
yep.
Coached by Todd Hersey.
Yep. 2011.
Right. So no one else was up there.
Right.
Okay. So everybody saw him a lot. So in that case, maybe the coach, but he had a great year, and there were some guys down in the city saying, "Well, it's because it's up north." Well, maybe it was that year in particular, but again, there was a lot of video on these guys.
Right.
And then you talk about what's the competition level.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's never going to be a perfect system.
Unless you have Chris Webber.
Correct. Right.
Who's a no-brainer.
Right.
It's going to be controversial.
Right.
And that's what kind of makes it fun.
And I think absolutely, and I think even a couple years ago, I think those who watched Cassius Winston, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. He's just, he's great. He's great.
Exactly.
And he's so fun to watch. And
yeah. and he's going to continue to be fun to watch.
Yeah,
I think
he's awesome.
It's awesome seeing a young player who is now always was thrust in the spotlight, now in the big spotlight, the
You're
biggest
just pulling
biggest in
for
the
him.
you are, and it's interesting to watch him, struggle and then also find it and do something really clutch in the end. And when you know the kid, and he's such a wonderful kid, it's you really find yourself rooting for him, even if you don't root for that program.
Right.
I know me personally, whoever the teams that I really want to see advance, I just find myself all over the country now because we have sent so many all over.
Right.
Just watching
Like
games.
Monte Morris. You wanted Iowa State a couple of years ago
Yeah.
to just, he's such a good guy. Well, Mike
Absolutely.
Williams was his high school coach
Yeah.
and good player.
Yeah. E.C. Matthews out in Rhode Island.
Oh,
you know
I
what
saw
I mean?
him
yeah,
up
he's-
close and personal.
Right, and every once in a while, Rhode Island's on. ESPN2 on a Saturday morning.
Yep, Danny
I'll pop
Hurley,
that out
yep.
and I'll watch it. So yeah, exactly.
What a monster of a player.
Yeah, and there's just Jalen Reynolds, who went to Livonia Stevenson, who
Yep.
went to
Remember that? Yeah, we had
Xavier, and
we had a dunk contest at the Palace when we used to do our All-Star game.
right.
And
Why don't you do that anymore?
the All-Star game?
No, yeah,
It's so funny. It's so interesting.
Yes.
That we couldn't get the best players to come anymore. But you
get
know
it.
what's interesting? We dropped it, and hardly anybody said anything about it. So we felt like it was time.
yeah.
Back in when there was no AAU, you had a chance in an All-Star game to play against the best guys, and you never got that chance.
Yeah. Do you
They
think,
don't really. It's not that big a deal
I get it.
anymore. And it was disappointing. But then when we didn't do it, no one even really noticed. I shouldn't
Yeah.
say that. There's obviously some areas where kids come down.
Yeah.
Maybe smaller schools and
Right.
get a chance to play in that. My wife played in it.
Yeah.
In '83.
Wow.
I mean, it's still a big deal to say I played in the Michigan High School All-Star game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't missed.
What
we
about-
were like we I think we made the right decision because we didn't get any. It wasn't even hardly
Right.
even noticed.
So I understand, players maybe not wanting to hurt themselves in the game, but in something, what if we brought back, say at the finals, finals weekend, we brought back some skills competitions.
No, they do a. Yeah. Tell me what.
Yeah, I was going to say, and again, but the fun one's like a dunk contest or something along those. I mean, I don't know. Do they
With
do
the-
a shooting?
What they've tried to do with the MHSAA is BCAM has a top shooters contest, free throws and 3-point,
Right, I've
team and individual.
Right.
And Mark Bray runs that.
Right,
Dennis
I've seen
Hopkins
that,
has
yeah.
helped, and they've tried to bring the finalists to the Breslin for the state championship and have that on there.
Right.
Dunk contest.
Yeah.
huh?
That's what I'm talking about. That's what the fans want to see. And the great thing about it is it doesn't always have to be the best players. You just happen to have a really great dunker on your team. It's kind of like the way the NBA is now. A lot of times it's not an all-star who's in that competition. It's just somebody who can just bring it and wing it. So that would be fun, huh?
Yeah.
A BCAM dunk contest.
He said it. I didn't
Yeah,
say it. I
I'm
don't know. I
saying
don't know. We'd have to see, but that
We
would
could
be
do that.
exciting.
It would
You know,
be.
we have our Mr. and Miss Basketball presentation at the Free Press,
Yep.
sponsored by United Dairy of Michigan, and it's also at the state championship as well. We present it
Right.
sometime during one of the state championship games. Normally, the class of the recipient, a Class A or B, whatever it becomes. So that's exciting. So I don't know. Maybe we could do some more things.
I think we should.
Yeah. All
I
right.
think we should. State champs can get involved with that as
Okay,
well.
okay.
We can pump that. We can do a voting contest. We can have people submit videos, and then we choose the guys who come and
Yeah, there's some people
dunk
out
for
there.
it.
I'm sure that I had a kid, Earl Hardison at Glenn, that it was just
Right.
could
Leapers,
just jump.
man.
Oh yeah, and we've all had a few.
Yeah. And it's something I think that everyone would get a real kick out of. And anyway, we'll see. We're always going to toss around these things. That's why it's fun.
That's what it's
Working
all
with
about.
BCAM.
That's why State Champs is great.
right.
It's
Thank you. And
it's
we-
promoting high school,
Right.
And it's promoting that person maybe you don't know about, and no one, maybe that individual school or that area knows, but maybe hasn't gotten on the radar yet. That's the most fun, I think, with you guys and us being a part of it. It's just been super cool.
And the MHSA has jumped on board now. We're all kind of working together, and I
Which
think it's
we work
great. And that's
very closely with,
Yes.
and we have great respect for the MHSA and all the tough things they're going through right now.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to support them through these tough times. But,
oh, yeah. Hey.
Absolutely. We're all working together.
That's right. Onward and upward. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you next week. Coming up, it's our top games segment, so stick around.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's, Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for one medium pizza at participating locations.
Hungry Howie's makes it easy. It's just a little mini pizza box, but we make lots of money, lots of dough.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, welcome back to Hang Time. This is the High School Hoops podcast here in the state of Michigan. State Champs Hang Time. What is this, episode 4 already?
Yeah.
Crazy. So Jeff Dullack, TJ Kelley, Scott Burnstein back with me in the room. I thank Dan Young for his participation in BCAM, being a sponsor of this program. Also, of course, Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. Go to doughraiser.com. They are the presenting sponsor of our podcast. And so quickly, we're going to get to our fourth segment of the show, which is our kind of top games of the weekend that are coming up. This would be either Friday or Saturday, or even Thursday in this case.
Yep.
But you want to also, take nominations.
Yeah, so for anybody watching, we're going to start doing, I believe starting next week, we're going to start doing a mailbag segment. So if you have any questions for TJ, Scott, Lauren, or myself, you want them answered, whether it's about TJ's rankings, how you want to know how the Mr. Basketball race is going to play out, shoot us a message, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, our website. Find the comment section on SoundCloud and just shoot your question. We'll make sure we get it on next week's podcast.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a particular question, you just want to comment. You want to comment about something we were talking about. You want to disagree or agree. Yeah, we can do that here, address it here.
We're all about debate.
That's right. And since Dan and I had fun going through Mr. Basketball, especially the Mr. Basketballs of the past, I was just going to throw this out here while you guys are, fresh and you're not thinking about it. And it's always fun to just kind of look at the list. And this goes all the way back to 81. And when you turn the page and you look at some of these names, who are some of the names that you look at and just immediately they jump out to you when you think about them in high school?
Well, Glenn Rice at Flint Northwestern,
Dan
arguably maybe the greatest 2-year run of any basketball program in the state. They lost, I think they were like 49-1, and Glenn Rice was just unbelievable as a high schooler.
Yeah, and
obviously at the University of Michigan, won a national championship at University of Michigan, went on to have a really long NBA career where he was a multiple-time All-Star.
Yeah, I saw him play with the Lakers towards the end of his career.
I think he got robbed in one of those All-Star games. I think that was the time Magic came back.
That's right.
And Glenn Rice was out there bombing.
92
and all of a
or
sudden,
something.
this guy comes in there and ruins it.
The first winner, obviously
come out of retirement and beat me.
The first winner, who obviously I didn't see play, but
it's all right.
Sam Vincent at Lansing Eastern went on to have a pretty a long NBA career, and he actually was in the backcourt with Michael Jordan.
Right.
With in some of Jordan's early Bulls teams.
Mm-hmm. One name that stands out to me is kind of my first time covering something outside of Oakland County. Keith Appling. I got a chance to just for the heck of it, went to cover him during a regional final. He went off for 50 points, and at that time he was the best high school player I had seen. The one, Mr.
He's probably taking visitors. You can go see him. He probably would love to talk to you. Sorry.
The one race that stands out to me the most, and it's probably the most controversial, at least from my time, covering it, is 2013 Monte Morris and James Young, both up for the award. I think BCAM took a little bit of slack because it was Monte Morris over James Young, but I think now that we look at it in hindsight, they got it right, considering college career, and it seems like Monte Morris is at least tracking for a better all-around pro career at this point.
Yeah, well, I'd tell you what, Monte Morris wound up winning state championships while James struggled to make it out of the districts.
Yeah.
And so I think that winning has a lot to go towards, their voting. I like Matt Costello. But how Denzel Valentine doesn't win that year after being on a dominant Lansing Sexton team. To be honest, probably one of the best 2-year teams that we've had in recent history. Brad Redford's my guy.
Yeah.
Brad's my Konnichiwa Brad. But at the same time, I mean, Draymond Green. It's one of those things, and I know that Brad's doing his thing and all. Down in Cincinnati right now. But come on, Draymond Green.
In 2005, Wilson Chandler won. I remember at the time people saying this is the worst Mr. Basketball winner we've ever had. He ended up having an NBA career, got drafted in the first round to DePaul, and then another maybe kind of dubious honor in 2011, Dewan Anderson from
Sutton's Bay. We talked about that with Dan up north.
Supposed to go to Michigan State, didn't end up there. Ended up at Wagner, and kind of unimpressive. Future after
we were talking about
school.
voting, and only the current coaches, have an opportunity to vote. It's not just because they're such a huge organization that you've got, I think there's 6,000 or something that are eligible.
The largest in the country.
But I'll say the most dominant of these guys was Chris Webber.
Without a doubt.
And again, another controversial year because that was Jalen Rose who was with them. You know what I mean?
But even at the time, I was a kid at the time, 11, 12, but I just remember it was a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
He was going to win every game, 30 points, 15 rebounds, just the definition of dominant.
I know.
And then just to say something about his...
even though Southwestern beat country when they did play.
Right. Well, it was Class A versus Class B. And you had a team at Southwest. You had a team at Southwestern that had 3 NBA players in their backcourt.
Yeah, I know. Was that at Cobo they did that?
Yeah.
See, one that stands out to me is Drew Neitzel, and that was kind of the first time when I was still in high school at the time, but hearing about other high school basketball players.
Malik and Joe.
Yeah, and Drew Neitzel, man.
Let me just say one more thing.
He was
sweet, dude.
About Chris Webber's fellow alum at Country Day, Shane Batty. Now, Batty, another one of the guys that was kind of a foregone conclusion in 97 that he was going to win it. But really, if you go back and look at his stats were not that impressive. I mean, he averaged about 16, 17 points a game, 10 rebounds, and he never stepped outside the paint.
Right.
I remember saying at the time, what's he going to be at the college level? Now, the joke's on me. He ended up having an amazing college career,
National Player of the Year,
and an outstanding, relatively outstanding pro career.
A great career.
But he's a guy that really developed his game. Wasn't just complacent with all the accolades as a high schooler, and literally he hit the ground running at Duke. I remember watching his first game at Duke, and he popped like 3 or 4 threes in the first half, and I'm like, where was that in high school?
Right.
Well, he didn't need it.
Right.
Well, one other guy who had a far better pro career, and I just have to shout him out, is Antonio Gates. And everybody knows that he should have definitely beat Dane Fife that year after he especially dominated him. I think it was at Ferndale's gym when Detroit Central wound up going on before they wound up winning their state
People don't know he was a basketball player.
Yes, and went to Michigan State.
He went to state on a basketball scholarship.
He didn't play football.
And I heard that Izzo didn't even want Fife. At the time. So I hope Dane Fife is listening. If he's not, I'll make sure I tag him 3 or 4 times and even make sure I send him a text message to let him know that I'm getting my understanding understood.
I'll make sure I clip this segment off just for TJ's purposes.
and kind of in lockstep with what's happened in this year with the Thomas Kithier situation, that year, Dane's senior year, they brought in Angelo Taylor from their arch rival Pontiac Northern, and it was a huge deal at the time. Angelo moved from Pontiac Northern, and I believe he got an apartment in Clarkston, and came over, and they thought that was the anecdote that was going to get them over the top and get them to the Final Four of the state championship. And Antonio Gates and I believe it was Dante Darling and Jimmy Twyman over at Central said, "Not so fast, guys."
Right.
There you go. All right, guys. So that was fun, and it's all. I just like springing stuff on you guys, and it's always great to lose. And we could sit down with Hoops fans and just literally have a whole show.
You can argue. You can have a debate about every single one of these winners.
Absolutely. Maybe not everyone.
Well, yeah.
But yeah.
I look back at Cassius, and Cassius was a pretty obvious.
Who's going to say that John Garavaglia wasn't definitely the #1 player in 1993?
For me, Dane Fife is my
Todd
personal,
Bergen, maybe?
Dane Fife is my personal favorite just for what he did after. He took my Hoosiers to the NCAA championship game. And if it wasn't for our point guard, Tom Coverdale, having an ankle injury, I honestly believe we win the 2002 national championship. Fife had an amazing senior season after kind of a disappointing first 3 years coming off on McDonald's All-American career, but averaged about 12 points a game, popping them from 3, was the straw that stirred the drink on that 0-2 team, rallying everyone after Bobby Knight left, and just really had an amazing senior year. And because of that senior year in 2002, never has to buy a drink, never has to buy a dinner when he's in Indiana. He's beloved for that season.
because they haven't done much since then.
And they haven't done much since.
So they don't have anything else to draw off of except the last time. All right, let's get into our best upcoming games for this weekend, and including Thursday. Let's start with East English Village at Pershing Friday at 4.
I'll tell you what, that's the battle for the PSL East. Right now everybody's jockeying for position as far as seating goes. Everybody wants that home game. Let's say if you're not, Depth says there's a chance that they probably will have to play for play-in game to come in. But with Pershing and East English Village only having one loss, that's a huge game for both teams. Yep. It's tough to win at Pershing. It's tough to win at Pershing. And these kids, they walk in and they're like, man, this doesn't look anything like my gym. East English Village, they've got as a relatively new school. Yeah, I mean, you got stuff that got dust on those. Yeah. Look at all these banners right here. Right. And so.
It is crazy. Yeah. No doubt. It's intimidating. So, New Boston Huron at Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central. That is a Friday night 7 o'clock game.
Yeah, got to go with the home team there. New Boston Huron, if they can win, then they're cracked the top 10. Yeah. But right now, Randy Wyndham has those guys rolling, and CJ Houghton, Kegley, they're doing it.
I'll take who I consider the one of the best on the sideline in Wyndham, and I think that the Wyndham's troops get that victory.
Yep, I agree.
And again, these are games for you as a Hoops fan that you should know of, some of the best games that you can go and check out if you want to just go watch some great high school basketball. Muskegon at Detroit Loyola, that's Saturday at 4 o'clock.
I'll tell you this, Muskegon usually brings a ton of fans. I don't know how they're going to. I mean, Loyola fits 150 people in there.
It's a church. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's 150.
You're playing in a church.
And you're on one side, cool. And they're only. I mean, imagine. And so what? There are 5 stands in the 5 stairs in the bleachers on only one side of the sideline. So
what you're saying is fans don't go to this game. You're not going to get
I'll tell you this. It's gonna be a really tough one to get into. Yep. But I think the Muskegon, they might probably have just a little bit too much depth. And while I do like Loyola. Cam Hudson, Myron Gardner is one of the best 2019 players that we have, best juniors that we have in the state. I just think that they might just be a little bit too much firepower coming from the West side team.
Yeah, I want to see how Myron Gardner kind of stacks up against a solid Class A team like Muskegon, but Muskegon's Muskegon for a reason.
Yeah.
Troy at Hazel Park. They're playing Thursday night, so we tape these on Wednesdays, and we release these at 5 on Thursdays. So if you do see this, the game's starting in about an hour.
Yeah. It's a matchup of top-notch backcourts. Troy brings Jason Dietz and Leon Ayers, took Troy to the Class A quarters last year. Hazel Park has a three-headed monster of Hearns, Bowe, and Devin Pettis. And I really like what they also have on the wing with Kari Adams and Kyle Washington. I'm going to take Hazel Park at this. They're playing at Hazel Park, but I expect it to go down to the wire.
Yeah, don't forget about Danny Sully over at
Danny Sully. Yeah, he's a bruiser. Him and Rob Bannis make up a really nice front court.
Yeah, and the other thing about Danny Sully is he had a Division II offer in Ohio Dominican, turned it down, and wound up going to U of M Dearborn. Mm-hmm. So. Troy's, I mean, they're the real deal. But I'm with you. I think
they took Clarkson to overtime, which was
without and Dietz wasn't on the. Right? Dietz was nursing an injury.
Yeah, and it was funny if you look at the highlights, which you can see on our State Champs YouTube page or at statechampsnetwork.com. Clarkston. I mean, Lawyer had 44.
They had 44 of their 57.
Right. But they tried to close it out. They tried to throw the ball around, and Troy's defense is what made the difference in order to push it to OT.
Dietz, Ayers, Sully, and Bannis are all like their wingspan combined is ridiculous.
Right.
Yep.
All right, then we'll wrap it up. Another Thursday night game, West Bloomfield at Clarkston.
This is kind of a show-me game. We want to talk about how for real West Bloomfield is with Donovan Moore. This is their chance to show it. And I mean, Clarkston's Clarkston.
I'm eager to see the defensive matchup. Jalen Kelso, who's one of the best lockdown defenders in the state, going up against Foster Lawyer.
Yep.
I think one of the things that West Bloomfield brings with Donovan Moore, especially him playing off the wing, that's Clarkston's soft spot. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you've got to deal with 6'3", very athletic, knows how to get to the basket. If Donovan Moore is shooting the ball well in that game, West Bloomfield can win that game.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why they're not going to win that game is because they're playing at Clarkston and they're playing Clarkston.
And that's why CJ...
And the officials when you're playing at Clarkston.
Right. You think they get worked over a little? They're like, man, I got Essler on
You just got to expect when you go in there that you're playing, 7 on 5.
Right.
8 on 5.
You look at it, and I think to TJ's point, with Donovan Moore on the wing and Trey Harvey on the wing, I think that's where C.J. Robinson's going to be kind of the X factor in a game like that, where that defense on the wing, going man to man. I think that's going to be huge in a game like that.
One more segment to go. We're going to wrap it up talking about the impact of transfers and those who are affecting their teams right now. We talked about Novi earlier. Yep. That is a big one. So stick with us. We'll be right back as we wrap up Hang Time. Your home for high school sports is Michigan's original high school sports show, State Champs. For over a decade, the multiple Emmy Award-winning State Champs covers all sports statewide, 40 weeks a year. Catch State Champs Sundays at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit and StateChampsNetwork.com. All right, guys, welcome back. Episode 4 of State Champs. Hang Time is almost in the books, but we have one more segment. We just want to kind of quickly, especially from the guys who live it, is get some word on the transfers who are now playing with their teams and making an impact. So often, for those who maybe just see the holiday hoops, the stuff prior to January, all of a sudden, they think we beat that team by 20 a few weeks ago, and all of a sudden it's different, a completely different team. We talked about Novi and the fact that they have guys right now, which are making them contenders, not just better.
Tariq Woody in the middle came over from Plymouth. He is a difference maker. First game back, or first game in a Novi uniform, had 18 points, 14 boards. Just has a lot of length, good, nice touch underneath the basket. It's got a nice motor, and it's just has really paid big dividends getting him into the lineup for the Wildcats.
And not to mix news with what we're talking about, but there was a little bit of controversy over there with was he in Novi with Tariq? And, coming from Plymouth. But Plymouth did not challenge or anything, because people are wondering, when they hear this stuff and they're like, what, are they being selective on who? The other schools got to challenge that, as Dakota did with Clarkston.
I wrote a column about this for State Champs last week about how I would solve the transfer problem, and I don't really like this. Well, the only way we're going to look at it is if someone blows the whistle, which I just...
So that's the deal with that. Yeah. So he's legit, he was cleared, he's playing.
They had really no post presence before Woody, and then you bring Woody in there, and he's a very formidable post presence. Right. So that's why it's such a difference maker.
We just talked about West Bloomfield. I think Donovan Moore is much of a game changer as anybody in the state.
Came from Chicago.
Hillsborough.
Yep, Hillsborough. And whatever West Bloomfield, they're 5-5 or 6-5 right now. They could very, very well close. Well, I don't think that they're going to run the table. They've got to play Hazel Park again. They've got to play Clarkston again. They've got to play Troy again. I think that they're maybe going to struggle a little bit in a couple of those games. But I think that, again, Donovan Moore can really be the breakout guy that everybody's talking about towards the end of the season and then into next year.
Tremendous versatility. He's got an outside game. He's got a really nice mid-range game. He can get to the rack. He's got a nice floater. He came into the state, I believe, in June or July, and by the start of school, he had 10 Division I offers.
Yeah, he's a smart player. And then there's another kid who just transferred over from Northville, Robert Johnson. So that gives them another guard. While he might not be the biggest, he is somebody that can relieve some of the pressure that if anybody tries to go out there and press them. And I don't think so. Let's say this: you've got 3 really smart guards out there, 4 really smart guards out there, and that a lot of the times is what's going to get done in Kelso. Trey Harvey, who you brought up, Robert Johnson, and then, of course, Donovan Moore, and then mixing a couple of football guys in there, and now all of a sudden you secure the point.
At the high school and college level, great guard play wins.
Right.
It's a simple equation.
Yeah, and then you go to the PSL and you talk about Marcus Gibbs going from Cass Tech to King, and I think he instantly makes King that much better of a team.
Yeah, I think he led them in scoring last night.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he did.
Yeah.
He was Cass Tech's leading scorer last year, coming off the bench. I think he kind of bristled at the notion of being a sixth man, and that might have led to him trying to or wanting to move and making the move over to King.
Because when you go Cass to King, that's hardcore right there.
Yeah. He was still getting his minutes and he was still getting his shots. Like I said, he was a leading scorer on that team.
Yeah.
So
He's a spot-up shooter, and I think he just adds another dimension to an already kind of tough, hard-nosed King team.
You know what? He's what King needs.
Yeah.
King doesn't have that outside scoring, and all of a sudden you've got somebody in who doesn't necessarily fit the grinder. Like I need to pick up and do all these other little things. And if I'm ever going to be out there on the court, and while Marcus does that, he just doesn't. I mean, he's not the guy that you're going to label first to go on the floor to get a loose ball.
No.
Or he's not the defensive stopper where he's got other guys, but he fits in very well with King just because one thing that they need is some outside shooting.
That's
and some
kind of what
scoring.
held them back last year in a team that, I think a lot of us looked at them as being a top 10 team going into the year, but they kind of missed that dimension a year ago.
Jalen Kelso at Westmouth was a transfer, too. He's just been eligible since the start of the schedule.
Right.
He came over from Walled Lake Northern.
Right. So you're saying somebody's going to break out a knuckle sandwich? Better make eligible immediately.
All right. So we've been doing this a few weeks. What's the word on the street about the podcast? You getting some positive feedback?
I told you I had half a dozen, and this is also I think speaks about how buzzy it is that we have girls basketball enthusiasts, which obviously don't have the numbers that boys basketball enthusiasts have. I had a half dozen calls in the 2-3 days after the podcast was posted, calling me to debate Dan Young's take on the Miss Basketball race. I think that's a great sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've gotten a lot of good returns on it as far as it just opens up debate, and that's kind of why we want to do that mailbag. And
give out how people can communicate with us again on that.
Just follow us on Twitter, State Champs Net. Shoot us a message or a tweet on there. Find us on Facebook, State Champs Network on Facebook. Shoot us a direct message there, or go to our website and then go to our contact page, statechampsnetwork.com contact page, and then shoot us an email through there. But yeah, it opens debate, and I think there's like to what Scott said, there people want to debate, and that's kind of what we're here for now.
What about you, man?
Develops a discourse.
Yeah. I tell you what, I look forward to going to Grand Rapids in a few weeks, in 2 weeks, February 3rd, I believe. Because when I went over to when I was in Grand Rapids a couple of weeks ago, hey, it was pretty nice. Hey, thanks for acknowledging us over here on the west side of the state. I know that there's so many people there. I mean, if you put up your hand, man, we might as well be on our own island over here in the Detroit area. We feel like New York to the rest of the state,
like
and
Manhattan,
Chicago to Illinois.
Yeah,
Manhattan to New York City. I mean, it's like, you're from Yonkers.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But it's great that we're also able to touch around in different spots of the state. So I think that's important as well to the show.
Yeah.
All right, boys, good stuff. We'll do it again next week. So make sure, again, share our content. If you got comments on the podcast, reach out to us via all the platforms and let us know what you want to hear. If you've got some criticism, if you want to shoot some holes in his rankings over here, it's certainly open for debate. Obviously, some big games and what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks is really going to shape where we feel that teams are going to end up. And, of course, as we get closer to both Mr. and Miss Basketball, those finalists coming in, I think we're going to have a better idea as to who is going to be in that final grouping.
So start shaking itself out.
That's right. So get out there, enjoy some high school hoops, and we'll see you next week.